Pharma is a space which was under pressure yesterday. A lot of stocks under pressure. Vishal Manchanda is joining us now. He, of course, tracks the pharma space at Systematix Group. Vishal, good morning. Thanks a lot for joining us. So quite a bit of pressure on names like Dr. Reddy's. What's your view, given the recent news flow, and also on the pricing front, there's been some pressure. How would you approach these big pharma names?
Yeah, hi, good morning. So I think Ranitidine so there was news around Ranitidine wherein product liability litigations have been filed in the US and generic companies are defendants. So what I would think is it is for the first time we are seeing generic companies being litigated against for a product cost injury, drug cost injury. So there is no precedent that I've heard about generic companies paying huge sums of money. So innovators have been actually punished for drug cost injuries in the past, but generic companies, it is unheard of. So there was a settlement yesterday wherein generic companies paid out about $0.5 million to a litigant. So this payment was actually not on account of companies have submitted that the drug is causing injury, and but they actually paid this out because they thought the litigation expenses would be higher and it is better to settle it. So this case doesn't set a precedent in terms of whether generic companies are liable or not. So once I think there are larger number of cases and these cases get consolidated, we'll get to understand on what's the situation.
So Vishal, I mean, as they say, when it rains, it pours, right? For a lot of these companies, in any case, the US markets were under a bit of pressure because of the pricing pressures over there. So that was, in any case, a headwind that they were facing. And now this. What do you do with stocks like, say, Sun Pharma, Dr. Reddy's? Those are your preferred picks, I understand. But tell us about the way forward. And do you see any cap to the upsides because of this?
So I think price erosion is something we have been all facing for last several years. My sense is if we look at the generic price index over the last 10 years, a long-term trend, prices have almost deflated by 70 odd %. So I think there has to be a bottom. Gross margins, if we look at gross margins of companies, they have come off a lot in the last 1 year. Companies are discontinuing drugs now. So Lupin discontinued about 15 drugs in the US. So I think Indian companies have never talked about discontinuing drugs, and we have started to hear on those lines. And India, as we know, is the lowest cost producer in the world. So my sense is it can't get worse, but when it will start improving is the key question, maybe 6 months, 1 year. And the key determinant would be how capacities are put to use. So if Indian companies get alternative avenues to put their capacities to use, pricing pressure should ease off a lot. Maybe there'll be pockets in the industry wherein we'll see huge price surges too. So maybe it's 6 months away or it's a year away, but for sure we'll see prices getting better from here.
So you're saying, the worst of pricing pressure in the US perhaps it may be behind 6 months out.
Probably.
A lot of regulation and talk by the current US administration to bring cost of drugs lower in the US. I don't know how much of that is fed into actual policy and regulation, etc. But that doesn't worry you?
So Biden, so we just couple of days back, we saw a law being passed to lower prescription drug prices in the US. So I think that law pertains more to innovators, wherein and that it's going to be implemented very gradually. The first set of drugs, wherein Medicare, the largest insurance agency, as you would call, would start negotiating for drugs from 2025 onwards. So no imminent impact, but I think over time it will have some impact, and that too more on innovators, but no material impact on generic companies.
So in terms of the large stocks, what's your view, say, on Sun Pharma? Because that came out with good numbers. We saw a decent move. But in the last few days, we've seen quite a bit of price correction.
So I think one reason could have been this Ranitidine litigation news. That is one. But So Sun Pharma overall is better poised than others. Reason being is they've been able to so they've actually shifted their US business from generics to patented products. So patented products have two things which make them better than the generic drugs. You are allowed a price increase every year. Second, second is that the headroom is very large in terms of scaling up your business. So generics probably don't have that headroom. Maybe they can add another 200 or 300 million dollars. As we know, the generic, about 90% of the US is already genericized, and so there is only another 10% of prescriptions which which will probably be genericized in the future. So the headroom is not there in the generic industry as much as it is in the innovator in the patented space in the US. So that's where Sun Pharma has differentiated itself, and it can actually give structural growth in the US.